Zeus. Zeus ran the show on Mount Olympus as king of the gods. He controlled thunder and lightning, supposedly handled justice, but spent most of his time chasing mortals by turning into animals. Hera. Hera ruled as queen of the gods and protected marriage and family, which made it especially bitter that her husband Zeus constantly cheated on her with mortals and goddesses alike. Poseidon. Poseidon ruled the oceans with his trident after the Titanomachy, getting the sea while Zeus took the sky. He had a temper to match the waves and supposedly created the first horse. Demeter. Demeter controlled everything that grew from the ground. When Hades kidnapped her daughter Persephone and dragged her to the underworld, Demeter's grief killed all the crops and created winter. Athena. Athena sprang from Zeus's head fully grown and armored after he swallowed her pregnant mother Metis. She became goddess of wisdom and strategy, protecting heroes like Odysseus and serving as Athens' patron deity. Apollo. Apollo was the god of pretty much everything refined. Sun, music, poetry, prophecy, healing. He drove the sun chariot across the sky daily and ran the oracle at Delphi, where priestesses delivered his cryptic predictions. Artemis. Artemis was the goddess of hunting and the wild places where civilization hadn't reached yet. She spent her time roaming forests with a band of young women who'd sworn off marriage to follow her instead. Ares. Ares was the god of war, but not the strategic kind. He represented raw violence, bloodlust, and chaos on the battlefield. Even Zeus and Hera, his own parents, found him unpleasant and aggressive. Aphrodite. Aphrodite was the goddess of love, beauty, and sex, born from the sea foam after Cronus castrated Uranus and tossed his parts into the ocean. She was married to Hephaestus, but constantly cheated on him with Ares. Hephaestus. Hephaestus was the divine blacksmith of the gods, forging legendary weapons and armor in his volcanic workshop. Despite his incredible skill, he was cast from Olympus at birth because of his deformed leg. Hermes. Hermes was Zeus's go-to guy for delivering messages and handling tasks that required speed or cleverness. He wore winged sandals that let him fly between worlds, guiding dead souls to the underworld, while also protecting travelers, merchants, and even thieves on the road. Dionysus. Dionysus was the god of wine, parties, theater, and losing your mind in a good way. He was born from Zeus's thigh after his mother Semele got incinerated, which is already weird. His followers would get drunk, dance wildly, and completely forget about normal social rules. Hades. Hades ruled the underworld, not by choice, but because someone had to after the gods divided the cosmos. He wasn't evil, just stuck with the worst job, managing the dead. With his wife Persephone beside him half the year, he kept order below, stern but fair. Hestia. Hestia was the firstborn of Rhea and Cronus, making her technically the oldest Olympian, though she kept a low profile compared to her siblings. She's the goddess of the hearth and home, representing that central fireplace every Greek household relied on for warmth, cooking, and gathering the family together. When Dionysus came along later, she voluntarily gave up her seat among the 12 Olympians to avoid conflict. Persephone. Persephone was the goddess of spring and Demeter's daughter. Hades abducted her to the underworld to be his wife, and she ended up splitting her time between both worlds. When she's above ground, plants grow. When she's below, winter comes. Hecate. Hecate ruled over magic, crossroads, and the night in Greek mythology. You'd find her at three-way intersections after dark, carrying torches and surrounded by dogs. She commanded ghosts and necromancy, linking her to both the moon and the underworld's darkest practices. Nike. Nike was the winged goddess of victory, and she showed up wherever someone won something, whether that was a battle or an athletic contest. You'd see her depicted with Zeus or Athena, basically representing the moment of triumph itself, rather than the fight leading up to it. Pan. Pan was the half-goat god of wild nature and shepherds, living in forests and mountains rather than on Mount Olympus. He played haunting music on his pan flute and had a talent for startling travelers so badly they'd run in terror, which is where we get the word panic. Eros. Eros was the god of love and desire, sometimes seen as a primordial force, other times as the son of Aphrodite. His arrows could make anyone fall deeply in love with the next person they saw. In one famous story, he accidentally struck himself and fell in love with a mortal woman named Psyche. Nemesis. Nemesis was the Greek goddess who made sure nobody got too cocky or too lucky for too long. If you bragged too much or had an undeserved streak of good fortune, she'd show up to knock you back down. She represented balance through punishment, the cosmic correction that reminded mortals they weren't gods. The Fates. The Fates were three sisters who literally controlled how long you lived. Clotho spun the thread of your life at birth, Lachesis measured out how much you'd get, and Atropos cut it when your time was up. Not even Zeus could change their decisions. The Muses. The Muses were 9 goddesses who inspired creative work and knowledge. Each one ruled over a specific domain like epic poetry, history, music, tragedy, or astronomy. They were daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory, which made sense since memory fuels all artistic and intellectual pursuits. The Titans. The Titans were the original gods who ruled the cosmos before Zeus and the Olympians took over. Led by Cronus, who famously ate his own children to prevent overthrow, they included figures like Oceanus, the ocean god, Hyperion, the light titan, and Rhea, Cronus' wife. After losing the Titanomachy War, most were locked in Tartarus forever. Prometheus. Prometheus was a titan who gave humans fire after stealing it from the gods. Zeus chained him to a rock, where an eagle ate his liver every day, and because he was immortal, it grew back each night to be eaten again. Nyx. Nyx was one of the first things to exist, born straight from chaos itself. She's the goddess of night, and she was so powerful that even Zeus, king of all the gods, stayed out of her way. She gave birth to sleep, death, and a bunch of other personified concepts. Gaia. Gaia is the earth itself, the ground under your feet given form and consciousness. She emerged from chaos at the very beginning, and then basically gave birth to everything. The sky, the mountains, the sea, and eventually the Titans who would rule before the Olympians took over. Thanatos. Thanatos was the Greek god of death, son of the night goddess Nyx. He brought peaceful death to mortals, working alongside his twin brother Hypnos, the god of sleep. Together they'd carry souls to the underworld, representing the inevitable end everyone faces. Minor nature deities. Greek mythology packed the natural world with minor deities who lived in and protected specific features. Nymphs were the umbrella term, dryads inhabited trees, naiads lived in freshwater sources like rivers and springs, and Oreds made their homes in mountains and caves. Chthonic gods. The Greek underworld wasn't just Hades sitting on a throne. You had Erebus, the living embodiment of darkness itself. The Erinyes, who chased down oathbreakers and murderers without mercy, and Charon demanding his coin to ferry souls across the river Styx. Primordial forces. Before gods walked or titans ruled, the universe began with abstract forces given form. Chaos emerged first as the void itself, followed by Eros representing raw attraction and creation, Tartarus the deep abyss below everything, and Erebus embodying primordial darkness.